Hi, I'm Karen Downing Ripley, and I invite you to join me on a recent, unexpected side trip to Brittany, France during the 80th anniversary of the city of Plélo's liberation celebration and learn why Americans and Bretons celebrate their shared DNA from World War II. A last-minute decision to deliver my father's World War II documents to the city of Plélo, France, opened me up to an amazing experience that has truly changed my life. I ask that you join me so that you too can know and appreciate how we Americans are respected and revered because our ancestors fought to liberate the town of Plélo in August 1944. As the convoy traveled down the liberation route that my father and the other liberators had traveled 80 years before during the liberation, I was filled with joy and pride for the opportunity of riding on the Sherman tank, just like my daddy had. I rode the tank back to Colonel Hamsley Stadium and waved goodbye as we hurriedly headed back to Chez Georgette. It was incredibly sad to leave all our new friends. We couldn't thank Melanie and her crew enough for their warm hospitality and friendship. Tears were flowing as we loaded our gear into our rental car, and with many thank yous, kisses, and photos, found ourselves once again barreling down the road. I sent a thank you note to Mayor Jeremy Moreau, saying, "Thank you so much for including me in the Plélo Liberation Celebration. Your welcome and inclusion mean the world to me. Riding on the Sherman tank was one of the greatest experiences of my life. My father, Delbert Downing, one of the Plélo liberators, was sitting right beside me. When Dad would tell me his war stories, I would tell him how I wished I had been there with him. And he would always say, 'You were there, Karen Beth.' Thanks to you, Mayor, I know now that that was true." Mayor Moreau responded, saying, "Your words go straight to my heart. It is I who thank you for being able to participate in this beautiful event. I hope that we have lived up to what our liberators were. In any case, this is the meaning that we wanted to give to this weekend, a commemoration and celebration. The apotheosis was indeed your climb on the float. It was a magnificent moment. Thank you. I hope that you will come back to see us. In any case, I will be there. See you soon. Jeremy Moreau, Mayor." It was surreal leaving Plélo and Chateau de Rennes behind. How could we be leaving? What did all this serendipity and providence mean, leading to our unplanned arrival just at the time the town was celebrating my father and the 20 men who followed Colonel Hamsley to liberate Plélo? I felt so close to the gracious people of Plélo, I wanted to continue tracing my father's steps. I felt closer to him than I had for years. As we drove through the beautiful Brittany and Normandy countrysides, we passed through other villages and towns who were also celebrating the anniversary of D-Day and their liberation days. There were American flags everywhere. The further we drove, the more traffic we had to deal with. Once again, we found parking and getting a bite to eat next to impossible. Besides, we had a ferry to catch. We soon traveled from the bright, magical world of Plélo as if it had been Shangri-La to the graying, hectic world of the cities. We soon busied ourselves with the GPS and finding lodging, a rental car, and catching our ferry. As we struggled on our harrowing drive, once again the rigors of travel clouded out thoughts of Plélo. It felt as if a dark veil had descended, and we were no longer back in 1944 celebrating the liberation. Once again, we were back in the real world, on another maddening race to meet a busy schedule. We had a pleasant, uneventful ferry ride back across the English Channel to the White Cliffs of Dover. There we rented another car, and to our chagrin, the only car available was a super expensive Mercedes. Driving this outrageously expensive rental car made the prospect of an accident all the more foreboding. It took us 30 minutes to even figure out how to turn the car on, much less how to drive it. This made Bert's driving all the more difficult. Wrong side of the road, wrong side of the car, wrong way much of the time. When we finally made it to Chris and Helen's lovely home on the Thames, outside of London, we were exhausted. We were so grateful to our members of the Little Ship Cruise, who we had started this grand adventure with 6 weeks earlier. We had so much to tell them. They were the first friends that we shared our Plélo adventure with. They were as amazed as we at the providence that had taken us to Plélo at just the right time to be part of the Liberation Festival. that honored my father's World War II experience in fighting with the 15th Cavalry for Plélo's liberation. They shared their World War II family oral traditions with us. We were horrified that many of Helen's family had died in the Warsaw Ghetto. Some of Chris's family had been killed in Germany. They had met at Cambridge and had successful lives, and like us, appreciated all that they had benefited from by the freedoms won by the sacrifices of our ancestors during World War II. Bert and I were too tired to take our tour of London as originally planned, so Helen and Chris invited us on a walking tour of their little village on the Thames. It was fascinating how much history permeated every nook and cranny of the town. From the ancient church to the unique Australian memorial, which honored the thousands of Australian soldiers who came there to recuperate after World War I. Bert and I often watch BBC on TV at home. I love to see the British shows to see what I remember from going to school in England as a child. However, I now have an entirely new set of exclamations to make as I watch because of the fabulous scenes that are now familiar to me from our walking tour on the Thames with Chris and Helen. Our hosts were fabulous to us, and we are grateful to them for giving us much-needed rest time and for seeing us safely on our way to our flight back home. It seemed that no matter where we traveled in Europe, World War II was one of our closest companions. Wherever we traveled, memories, celebrations, and flags reminded everyone of World War II and the Americans and allies who had liberated them. Please join me for the next episode of You Were There, Karen Beth, and learn how Bert and I returned to our home in the Texas Hill Country, only to realize that Brittany was still in our thoughts and our hearts.